Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sandra. Today I'll be talking about Hello Girls by Brittany Cavallaro and Emily Henry. I recently got into Emily Henry, I think early last year. My friend Hannah from OWWR Pod got me turned on to her, so shout out Hannah. Emily Henry is best known for Book Lovers, Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, Happy Place, and then the forthcoming Funny Story. Brittany Cavallaro I have not read. I think she's known for her YA Sherlock Holmes retellings. Hello Girls made waves probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was a book of the month pick. It's really a YA coming of age story in the style of like Thelma and Louise, and as I read it I got flashes of like a promising young woman type of thing. There are a lot of underlying feminism themes. There's a lot of revenge in the story against specifically men. I'll begin by talking about non-spoilery things. Even though this book is YA, there's definitely some content warnings that readers should be aware of. There are several instances of domestic abuse, spousal and child. There's neglect. There's physical violence. There is drug use. There is underage fetishization. There is pedophilia or attempted pedophilia. There's underage gambling. There are more adult themes to this coming of age story. Hello Girls follows best friends Winona Olsen, who is the daughter of a wealthy, locally famous meteorologist named Stormy, and then Lucille Pryce, who has kind of the opposite upbringing. She lives in a trailer park. Her mom is a doormat, very absent. She has to be the parent to her mom in a way, and then she has a deadbeat drug dealer brother named Marcus. In addition to that, Lucille is really shrewd and street smart, and then Winona is more like classically smart in school, but she is super sheltered and naive thanks to her dad. The story that Winona has been told about her mother is that her mom died years ago and was like a drug addict, and this is how her father controls her. He picks out everything from how she looks to what she wears to how she carries herself. He has a very specific image in his mind for how his daughter should be, and she's really like an object to elevate himself. And then Lucille is just trying to get the hell out of her home situation because it's awful. And so these two bond and become best friends. I really like this story. I like the friendship between the two girls. There were some things that I liked and some things that I didn't like. I liked their character depictions. I liked how proactive they were. I also really loved the dialogue. It was so funny at times and I was laughing out loud. Much to my husband's dismay, I kept reading out loud parts to him that I thought were hilarious. And there's just a lot of girl humor, which makes it really fun. Some things I didn't like, there were some plot threads that were just kind of glossed over, and I'm like, okay, there weren't any consequences to that happening, so that wasn't really believable in my opinion. I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars, but I still think it's worth a read. There were some lines in the book that were really thought-provoking for the coming-of-age story that was being told, and so I thought I would share some out-of-context quotes just to give you a little flavor of what the book was like. Early off, there's a quote, and it reads, "That's what we do for our kids, isn't it? We hoist the sun up into the sky for them every day until they're old enough to do it themselves." And then there was another quote, "Why did people lie? With their words, with their voices, with their bodies, with their beautiful houses and beautiful clothes, and sometimes even their faces. Why couldn't everyone just be what they were? Monsters should look like monsters." And then the dialogue was just really funny. One of my biggest nitpicks with this is I just wanted there to be more redeeming characters. And it just seemed like a lot of the time people were just bad to be bad. I'm of the mindset where I find characters who are more morally gray more interesting than just, you know, the world being split into black or white. And so that was kind of my biggest nitpick with this story, along with some of the plot threads that were left open. By the end of this book, I just wanted Lucille and Winona to be gay together. That would have made me much happier. But I'll jump into more spoilery stuff. I talked about redeeming characters. There were only 2 characters in this whole book that were maybe a little bit redeeming. So it was the senile, dementia-ridden maternal grandfather of Winona, and he's the one that kept telling her that there was a letter from her mom, which made her suspicious against her dad, and that's how she ends up finding that her mom is alive and living in Las Vegas. And then there was like a random female bartender at a casino that the girls end up at who kind of helped them out. And that was it in the whole story. Basically in this story, the catalyst for the girls kind of taking off on the road is Winona's father abuses her a couple times. She displeases him, and it could be anything that kind of presses his buttons the wrong way. And so he takes a cigarette and burns her wrist with it a couple times. And then there's another night where he chops her hair off and then takes her to a salon to make her up to look like what he has in mind. And so that's kind of the final straw for her. And then meanwhile for Lucille lives in this trailer park. Her brother's a drug dealer. She has randos in her house, you know, all the time. She's working as a diner, so she's trying to put back money and save up her her money in a stash under her bed. Her brother finds it, steals it, and then she confronts him about it and he beats her up. And so after that, the two girls kind of hatch a scheme to get the out of there. So Winona and Lucille steal one of her father's cars, an Alfa Romeo, and they take off. They also steal like a watch, some rings, some money. There's kind of this himbo type character named Chaxton that Lucille was having a very casual fling with, who works in a gas station, and he helps them rob the gas station for some money that will help them be on their way and hit the road toward Vegas. As the story goes on, they're on the road. Each chapter tells you how much money the girls have, and so they're basically, the focus is how can we make more money and how can we get to Vegas? And then also how can we take revenge on all these people that try to us over. At one point they get to a casino and Lucille decides to play blackjack to make them some money. She ends up making a decent little amount. They play pool, work these men over. The men get mad. This random hot guy that's sitting in the casino named Silas comes into their defense. Together, Silas and the girls hatch a plan to use the girls as like pedophilia bait to earn money by the hour. And so they end up taking the brother Marcus's drug stash that Lucille stole to roofie these men that show up and pay $1,000 to have an hour with them. And then Silas dumps the bodies off. So they make like $4,000. But then Silas fucks over Winona and Lucille, takes the car, leaves them with $10. And then Winona chops her hair off. She just like has an emotional meltdown basically because she trusted this guy. She liked him and he totally her over. They remember that they had stolen a Rolex and some jewelry from her father. So they pawn that, get some more money, get a junker car. They decide to go out of their way to Denver to track down Silas and get their shit back. Only to find that Silas is in a relationship with this girl named Sandy and she is very pregnant. No one in this story is redeeming. It's kind of just a crazy progression of events that happens. Meanwhile, because Lucille stole Marcus's drug stash, his drug lord boss, the Candyman, is now tracking them down, trying to get his money. Winona's father is using his influence as beloved local weatherman to seek out help in locating where she is, and an Amber Alert is pushed out and all this stuff. Lucille and Winona then get this bright idea to pit her father against the Candyman. So they try and con $10,000 out of her father. The girls end up killing the Candyman at one of the drop points for the money, and then there's almost like a shootout at the second drop point with Stormy. Winona stands up to her father and basically gets him to let her go and to move on with his life, and he can make up whatever narrative he wants to save face. So then the girls carry on their way $10,000 richer in their junker car to Vegas. They find the mom, and then the mom is just not what they expected. She seems really surface level, superficial. She's remarried to a much older man. They have a baby together, and she doesn't seem receptive to rekindling any kind of relationship with Winona and doesn't seem to have any kind of remorse for abandoning her daughter 10 years ago to this monster of a husband that she lived with. A long story short, they get $10,000 more from the mom's now husband because she made up a story about Lucille and Winona being random Habitat for Humanity volunteers that were going door to door. And so they take their $20,000 and they leave for the coast to start their own life. And that's pretty much the end of the story. My problem with this story is that there were so many consequences that didn't play out. The Candyman was murdered by, Winona and Lucille. He yanked Lucille's hair at one point to the point where her scalp was bleeding, and you're telling me there's like no forensic evidence that's going to point to these girls doing it, and they're not going to face any repercussions for that action. And then these men that were trying to buy an hour with them at the casino hotel, they just leave them roofied in a room. At one point they steal money from a drug buyer and leave him splayed out. They never tell you what happens to any of these people. There has to be some kind of camera around, but like the police are never hunting for them or going after them. There's nothing that comes from the gas station theft. Chaxton, the harmless himbo character, at one point, Marcus and the Candyman are with him, threatening him and having him communicate with Lucille to get her back. And I'm like, how is he? Is he okay? Because he seems like an idiot, but a harmless idiot in all of this as well. There were just moments like that where I was just like, okay, I'm not really believing this. This is super outlandish. I don't know. Maybe in YA stories, this stuff doesn't have to get worked out. but it bugged me. But anywho, besides that, I thought it was a really fun story. It always just bugs me whenever there's not a single other redeemable person outside of this. The whole premise of the story, you know, these teenage girls hitting the road and coming to $20,000 and being able to create the life that they want. That's all fine, but like I just had a hard time letting small details go. Probably a me problem. I was just really curious to see what an Emily Henry co-authored book was like. I couldn't really tell who wrote what in this story, but I do know Emily Henry started as like a YA author. So if you have read Emily Henry's first YA books, and they were worth a read, definitely let me know in a comment or something. Also let me know if you've read Hello Girls and what you thought of the book. All in all, I'm glad I read that one. It was quick, it was snappy, I was able to blaze through it after my other February reads. So now I'm hoping to change gears and jump into a more epic, high fantasy, like a romantasy type of book that I'm super excited to share with you, because I think a lot of you who love like Sarah J. Maas and Jennifer Armentrout, or even just like adult fantasy, are gonna really enjoy the next book that I talk about. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. Gizmo is so tired, but he says thank you too. Bye!